Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving deep into the newly dropped Claude Code 2.1.211 release. Now, if you just skim the raw release notes, it honestly might look like a kind of dry list of patches. But if you've been building and relying on agentic pipelines, you already know the growing pains that come with deploying them at scale. So we're going to transform those notes into a clear roadmap, showing you exactly how this tool is actively maturing and becoming, truly production ready for your daily workflows.
30. That is the exact number of specific, targeted bugs resolved in this maintenance-heavy release. But look, instead of reading off a boring laundry list of minor code tweaks, we're going to focus on the big picture. We're going to see how these 30 specific fixes dramatically improve three key areas of your experience: trust, reliability, and, ultimately, your return on investment.
Let's kick things off with visibility, because building trust really begins right here. When Claude Code tackles complex problems, it frequently spins up smaller subagents to handle subtasks. Until now, the internal thinking and text of those subagents were effectively a black box if you were reading the machine-readable output. You kinda just had to cross your fingers and trust that the subagent was doing what it was supposed to do.
Well, the solution they've introduced here is beautifully simple. If you're a developer building automated pipelines that consume the stream-json output format, you absolutely need to know exactly what those subagents are doing under the hood. Now, you can just pass the forward subagent text command line flag or just set the corresponding environment variable. It instantly brings complete transparency to your pipelines, letting you audit the exact steps those subagents are taking. It's a real game changer.
Okay, let's pause for a second, because this next fix is absolutely critical for your system's security. It deals with permission previews. Whenever Claude Code wants to execute a tool, it inherently asks you for permission in your chat channel, right? But there was a massive and honestly dangerous gap between what you thought you were approving and what the machine was actually preparing to do.
The vulnerability involved bidirectional override and zero-width characters. If you don't know, these are essentially invisible or misleading text elements used to manipulate how strings are actually displayed on screen. Previously, Claude Code wasn't stripping these invisible characters or even lookalike quote characters from the tool inputs before showing you the permission preview.
So this created a highly dangerous illusion. An attacker who managed to control the tool input could use those invisible characters to completely manipulate the display. They could feed in a command that looked entirely harmless, something you'd probably approve without a second thought. But hidden beneath those invisible characters was malicious code, literally just waiting to execute on your machine. Thankfully, version 2.1.211 neutralizes all of these characters entirely before the message is ever shown, securely closing that UI gap for good.
Speaking of safety guardrails, we also have a crucial fix for developers utilizing auto mode workflows and pre-tool use hooks. These hooks are essentially scripts that run right before a tool actually executes, giving you a chance to intervene. And they're absolutely essential for keeping automated agents in check. Previously, due to a bug, auto mode could silently skip a hook's ask decision specifically for unsandboxed bash commands, which is frankly terrifying given their deep system access. Now, if your hook evaluates a command and issues an ask decision, that is the absolute floor. Auto mode must pause for the user prompt, no more bypasses, period. It gives you total control over what your agents are allowed to execute.
All right, let's talk about reliability, and specifically those silent productivity killers, multi-session authentication bugs. If you use Claude Code extensively, you know the absolute frustration of suddenly losing your login state right in the middle of a complex, deep workflow. It completely derails your momentum.
Well, the team has rolled out some massive quality of life improvements here. Waking your machine from sleep will no longer ruthlessly log out all your shared credentialed sessions at once. Plus, background jobs relying on LLM gateway off won't suddenly fail with a not logged in error when the daemon respawns them. Oh, and if you're a Vertex or Bedrock user who explicitly configured a model, you are finally free from being spammed with those annoying Opus fallback warnings on startup, just because Claude Code tried to ping the default model first. Next up, background agents. If you've been using them recently, you might have noticed they were exhibiting some rather supernatural and frankly frustrating behavior. Well, it's time to finally say goodbye to the paranormal activity haunting your workflows. We've put a permanent end to zombie agents that would stubbornly auto-respawn even after you intentionally killed them. We've also stopped revived agents from running stale, outdated prompts from old sessions. Even better, Claude has been stopped from hallucinating or fabricating progress for agents that are still running. It now actually checks and reports the real status and patiently waits for completion. And they've entirely cleared out that weird bug where a refusal text would hijack your session titles just because your prompt happened to contain a link.
Let's keep that momentum going with a rapid-fire rundown of connectivity and file management fixes. These might seem like small tweaks, but they really add up to a much smoother, uninterrupted experience.
For starters, if you rely on MCP servers, you'll be thrilled to know your calls won't silently fail after your computer wakes up from an idle web session. They now properly reconnect. File uploads to Claude and Chrome from remote and CLI sessions are also completely fixed. Edge case file uploads, like those using old DOS device suffixes such as .prn or files with trailing dots, are now accepted without complaint. Conversely, to protect your system's stability, files containing dangerous multiple hard links will now be firmly rejected.
Beyond the core back-end logic, the interface itself also got some much-needed polish. The overarching goal here is to keep your development flow as frictionless, intuitive, and snappy as possible.
Everything just feels significantly better in this version. For example, the clear command actually does its job now and successfully resets your session cost counter back to exactly $0. They've also entirely eliminated a 300 millisecond delay on asynchronous UI content, meaning your settings tabs, stats, and diff views load instantly without that annoying microstutter. And if you've ever been haunted by permanently undeletable Git worktree jobs silently reappearing, well, they will now actually show you an explanation of why they're broken instead of just needlessly cluttering up your screen.
Now, speaking of the session cost counter, we really need to address the elephant in the room. Many enterprise users have been looking at their bills lately and asking, why on earth is prompt caching costing so much? It genuinely felt like the promised savings just weren't materializing.
Well, the answer was a billing regression, and it is a massive relief that it's finally been caught and fixed. Basically, on Bedrock, Vertex, Mantle, and Foundry, a bug was causing the trailing system context block to be billed as fresh, brand new input tokens on every single request. That meant caching essentially broke for that specific block, driving costs way up. But as of 2.1.211, that costly bug is officially resolved, bringing your token usage and your monthly bill back down to where it belongs.
This brings us to a quote straight from the source document that I think beautifully summarizes everything we've covered today. 2.1211 is the kind of release that makes Claude Code more trustworthy to use in production. It's not about flashy new toys, right? It's about real critical security fixes, strict hook enforcement, highly reliable background agents, and fixing a major billing regression. That is exactly how a tool earns its keep in a professional environment.
If you want to dive deeper into configuring these new settings, particularly the new Subagent visibility, or if you just want to review your MCP setups to take advantage of the stability fixes, you can check out the complete, updated Claude Code manual over at claudemaster.net. It is absolutely the definitive resource for mastering these granular controls.
So, we've seen how this update fundamentally transforms the stability of the platform. With your costs under control, your auto mode guardrails strictly enforced, and those frustrating zombie agents finally tamed, I leave you with this question. What mission-critical pipeline will you trust Claude Code to run next? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy coding.